Gerry Thompson, newly of Roanoke of the last year or two. Both these players playing two powerhouses in this format, Jund and Blue-White-Red Flash.
So, both players playing their namesake decks, both players sitting at 7-2. You got the Channel Fireball versus Star City semi-grudge match here. Thompson, your defending Invitational champion. Turtenwald, a former player of the year. This is going to be some high-level magic as Turtenwald's going to start with a Blood Crypt, Thompson going to play a Steam Fence, and we are underway, round number 10 of the Invitational.
Now, with Owen's deck, Owen is doing what most of the people that I've been seeing with Jund this weekend. He has gotten rid of those Sire of Insanities back to the Rakdos Returns. We can see a turn 2 Farseek, one of the things that brings the deck together. Gerry Thompson lays second land, takes 2 life, and with 2 mana open, basically opens himself up to a lot of possibilities. Azorius Charm, think twice. He has Ratchet Bomb as an option. Lots of other possibilities.
Also sitting with Essence Scatter and Syncopate as well. As Turtenwald's going to play a Rootbound Crag. He's going to play 3 mana. He's going to play a Rakdos Keyrune.
That gets around to possible Syncopate. Gerry does draw 1 card at the end of the turn with an Azorius Charm. Plenty of, it looks like at least 1 or 2 more mana left in his hand.
You see his draw from the Azorius Charm was a Syncopate, then he drew a land, so Turtenwald's going to untap, draw. He's got a Dreadbore in his hand. I think he's got a Thragtusk hanging out over there as well. And one thing that happens in this matchup, Adrian, is because the Jund deck has some removal, some discard, some of this, some of that in Game 1. Game 1 is typically a difficult matchup for Jund here, but they're able to sideboard those mediocre cards out and sideboard into really good ones that you're going to see Turtenwald play a Garruk Primal Hunter, and that's going to eat a Syncopate for 2.
Yeah, he pulled the trigger on that one. The turn before, he had 1 mana up that would have gotten around a Syncopate should Gerry have it. Here again, he had 1 mana up, but that's not enough for 3 mana and a Syncopate.
So Thompson just going to play a Sulphur Fall. He's going to pass the turn back. And we'll see what Turtenwald can put together this turn. You see his hand, he's got that Dreadbore, he's got a Tragic Slip, he's going to fire up that Rakdos Keyrune and get on in.
Now, Gerry Thompson, if he has instant speed, actual factual removal, we can use that to effect here. But if he does lay a Restoration Angel, the Tragic Slip in Owen's hand is going to make that Angel a 2/3, and the 3/1 first striking Rakdos Keyrune would kill it, should Gerry kind of go into this semi-trap here.
You see Thompson kind of taking a look at his hand, considering his options is, of course, just sitting at 18 life. So it can definitely take 3 points of damage, can use his life total as a resource here, but he kind of wants to maybe snipe that Rakdos Keyrune. He's going to make an attempt, and Turtenwald, with first strike damage on, it's going to say Tragic Slip, get that out of here. So Tragic Slip is going to trade for a Restoration Angel there. Can't be too unhappy with that.
Right. Well, the interesting thing about it is, you could say, oh, it's only 1 mana to kill a 4 mana spell. Or you could say, you know what, that's one of the only cards I care about. Gerry, he's well aware that there's the possibility of Tragic Slip. He could just be happy to make that trade, or just hoping that he could have just gotten the Rakdos Keyrune out of there. Huntmaster of the Fells joins the team.
Well, this is going to make an attempt here for Turtenwald. As that is placed onto the stack. You see him taking a look at Gerry, wondering, is my spell going to resolve? Thompson going to cast an Essence Scatter, so the answer is no. Huntmaster to the graveyard, and does Turtenwald have a land to activate the Keyrune? He does not. So Thompson's going to cycle an Azorius Charm. He's going to draw another Essence Scatter, a card that he said he has been very happy with having this in his deck this weekend.
Yeah, this is all 3 of his counter spells in his main deck. We've got 1 Syncopate, 2 Essence... Oh, pardon me, there are also 2 Dissipates. So still 2 Dissipates left to find. But the Essence Scatters effectively act almost like a removal spell, really, but you have to have it at the right time. Blue 1, counter target creature. Olivia does hit, and then there's 3 cards that come on the other side of the table for Gerry Thompson from Sphinx's Revelation.
So Thompson's going to draw 4 cards solo. You see an Essence Scatter in his hand. He's got a couple of lands over there. Maybe wondering if this Olivia Voldaren matters all that much, but he's just going to play a Steam Fence tap and pass the turn. So he's starting to pull ahead a little bit here against Turtenwald, but he does have to answer Olivia, because if that does go unanswered, of course it will win the game by its lonesome.
In for 6 here from an Olivia and a Rakdos Keyrune.
So Thompson's going to take 6. Does not flinch. Takes a look at his graveyard. Has nothing to flash back. Just going to untap that Steam Fence, draw a card, finds an island. Maybe a little bit of mana flood here for Thompson, as he's going to play a Clifftop Retreat and pass the turn back.
Back to Owen.
Let's see what Turtenwald can put together this turn. Maybe another Rakdos Keyrune activation here. You see in his hand, he's got that Dreadbore still. He's had it for a while. He's got a Putrefy. Looks like he has a Scavenging Ooze to add to the party.
It's classic Scavenging Ooze. Draws another Essence Scatter.
Thompson deems that worth countering, I think most importantly, is because he doesn't want those 3 Snapcaster Mages to get shut off if he ever does draw one of them, as Turtenwald going to come in there with the Olivia Voldaren. No Rakdos Keyrune activation this time.
It could be that he fears a Restoration Angel, or it could be he wants to leave that mana open, either for Olivia or for the ability to cast an instant like Putrefy.
Yep. So Thompson finally draws a spell of relevance. Here's an Augur of Bolas. Will that resolve?
A little scary, you know? It's one of those cards, he can put it out there, and very easily Olivia jumps up to a 5/5.
1, 2, 3 cards to the bottom.
There we go. As usual, I have not seen Gerry Thompson put a card in his hand in a long time on his first Augur of Bolas.
Certainly not on camera. It leads me to believe if he's 7-2, he's probably doing it off camera. But the old Augur and the SCG live cameras, they don't get along very well, as Thompson's going to add some mana to his mana pool, and he is going to cast a Restoration Angel, attempt to blink that Augur of Bolas in his main phase to get a little bit deeper. Turtenwald with an Abrupt Decay, so he's going to say no to that. There's a Sacred Fountain. You're going to see a shot there from Olivia. It's going to grow into a 4/4, and now it can actually either take the Restoration Angel, or he can with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He only has 6 lands, so he's not going to be able to play a land and shoot it down, but he can't take it if he wants to.
And Owen draws a card. 4/4 Olivia facing a 3/4 Vampiric Angel.
And don't forget, still has that Dreadbore, still has that Putrefy, and it looks like he has a Kessig Wolfrun over there as well. So while Thompson is doing okay in this game, he's sitting at 12, and Kessig Wolfrun can, of course, represent a lot of damage, Adrian.
This is true. Now, Owen, no stranger to Jund. He's been playing Jund since Jund got its name. That was a long time ago at this point.
Yeah, you know, he played Jund when Bloodbraid Elf was around to a lot of success. So you're going to see a Dreadboard here. You see a shot there with the Olivia first to turn it into a 5/5. There goes Restoration Angel. There's a Keyrune activation going to get in for 5, 6, 7, 8. Put Thompson down to 4. But of course, Turtenwald's Pro Tour top 8 at Pro Tour Gatecrash in Montreal. Jund all day long. There's a think twice from Thompson.
Draws a Sphinx's Revelation.
Yes, he does.
Sphinx's Revelation right now would be able to get him 4 life. That's presuming he doesn't lay a land. That would make him be able to potentially get 5 life. Olivia is 5, and the Rakdos Keyrune is 3. So if both of these, well, and plus that Kessig Wolfrun, he will not be able to outrun Kessig Wolfrun with a Sphinx's Revelation.
The question is, does Turtenwald activate it? You know, he has to have the fear of a lot of different things here.
Yeah.
Cards like Turn and Burn, Azorius Charm, Snapcaster Mage, War Leader's Helix. You see the activation of the Keyrune. It looks like he may be going for the win here. So, here's the activation, here's the attack. This is an attack for 8, Thompson at 4. So Thompson is the first one who has to react here.
Right, and he only has the ability to Sphinx's Revelation for 5. So that would put him up to 9. With a Kessig Wolfrun, Owen would knock him exactly to 0.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that will be exactsies, as they say. There's a Revelation. It's going to be for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pushes him up to 9 life. Assuming we've got those life totals correct. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turtenwald says activate, and Thompson says, okay, you saw it, I'm dead. So Owen Turtenwald's going to win game number 1 here against Gerry Thompson. Jund up a game against Blue, White, Red Flash. Again, both these players sitting at 7-2. This round, very, very important to their top 8 dreams here at the Invitational.
Yes, and one of the things about where Owen was at there, he did not seem to come out, you know, in any kind of screamingly fast fashion, but that's not what Jund does. What it does is it sticks a single card that can win the game all by itself. And in this case, that was Olivia. Now, he did get about maybe 6 or 9 damage in with the Keyrune. The Keyrune are one of in Owen's deck, but for the most part, Olivia did all of the heavy lifting there.
And, you know, the tough thing about Jund there, too, is, you know, if you ask Owen, how was your draw that game, he'd say pretty mediocre. I did draw a couple of removal spells. I didn't do very much, but I was able to get the job done with that Keyrune that you mentioned, with that Olivia getting a couple points in, which isn't even great in this matchup. And that's what's terrifying about Jund, is that you know, in this matchup, it has some mediocre cards in its for game one, like a Putrefy, like a Dreadbore, those type of cards, but they did just enough to get the job done. As we move on to sideboards here, we'll take a look at Gerry Thompson's first, as he's going to be on the play. I'll let you analyze what he can bring in to fix his Jund matchup.
Oh boy, to fix it, that's, I don't know that anything fixes it, but what he does have, personally, with all of the cards, even with the change in how Clone works and taking care of a legend, I do like the ability of Clone to make Thragtusk be a thing that you can fight better. You know, when you clap, he does not have Evil Twin though. If it was Evil Twin, I would say that would be a great choice. Clone, a little bit less good. He obviously doesn't have the black mana to make Evil Twin work, but Clone is a good anti-Thragtusk card for one. Other than that, Negate is actually very good against Jund. Sometimes you can hit a Farseek and have their entire game crumble, but also you've got to remember Garruk Primal Hunter is a huge threat. Rakdos Returns, a huge problem. Both of those cards get answered in the form of Negate. And I have to think after that, Assemble the Legion for the long games is also quite good. And I might, if I really wanted to push it, throw in the Aetherling, a card that Jund has a hard time answering.
You mentioned those negates and the things that it can hit in game one, you know, that Garruk Primal Hunter, some of the other cards in their main deck. We take a look at Turtenwald's sideboard. He's got some more nice targets for a negate. He's got 3 copies of Liliana the Veil, he's got 2 Underworld Connections, he's got 2 Duresses, and he's got an additional Rakdos' Return as well, playing the exact same 75 as Reduke, who we saw last round defeat Thomas and Olsen. Turtenwald both doing quite well in this tournament, is Duke and Turtenwald, those Jund players, and now we're going to see Turtenwald turn his deck into a lean machine. We're going to see him turn things around for himself here, board out some of those removal spells, maybe board out some of those creatures, move into a much more streamlined deck that beats control decks, as we are being told right now for our standard open that's happening today. You know, we just got a few people here. Normally for our standard opens, Adrian, what do you do? What do? We do around 400, 500. We're looking at around 10 rounds of Magic there. You know, sometimes in, I think, Columbus, we had around 650. So, you know, what we're doing here this weekend is we're doing our Mythic Madness giveaway. You know, which is you know, we're doing our Mythic Madness giveaway. We're doing 7 of each Mythic, which is super cool. I guess some people are interested in that because we have 897 players here.
That is a lot of players.
That would be a record.
I don't know for sure, but I think this might be the largest non-Grand Prix Magic tournament that we've seen. 897. Little Mythic Madness, I would have came out too. So, you know, just that invitation that we're doing here, that you guys are watching 2 of the best players in the world, Gerry Thompson and Owen Turtenwald. We're going to be doing some standard open coverage for you guys after we get through these 8 rounds, 16 total. And then we'll cut over that standard open. We'll cover that too. Don't forget about our premium giveaways as well. Tonight we'll be giving away 3 months of premium. Tomorrow, 6 months, a book, the Chapin as well. So, you know, this is one heck of a tournament. As we see both players start off with some Ravnica dual lands here. Thompson with the Sacred Foundry untapped, going to pass the turn back, representing, as you said last game, a bevy of options. There are even more now. There are even more counter spells than before, and we see a negate. The negate hits a Farseek, and as I said before, I know in talking to Adam Jansen, the champion in Legacy for Milwaukee, he said, you know, if you negate a Farseek against Jund, sometimes the deck just doesn't work. And that's exactly what we see happen here. Gerry negates that Farseek, and then on his turn, lays an Augur of Bolas. We see a Rakdos Keyrune on turn, I want to say 3 here for Owen. So Turtenwald actually doing okay, even though that did get negated. But one of the things that you can actually do against Jund is you can attack their mana. They do rely on Farseek a little bit here, as Thompson's going to come in with that Augur of Bolas, and he does have a Detention Sphere in his hand that he could, if he wanted to, take out that Rakdos Keyrune and try to cut Turtenwald's mana. The question is it worth it? I mean, it's a pretty risky play. It's certainly a choice that you can absolutely make, but it's definitely risky. Oh boy, there's a card that you might want to get rid of. That's an Underworld Connections, and this is definitely something that you don't want to see on the table if you're Gerry Thompson. Yeah, this is a 2 of in Turtenwald sideboard. Again, Reed Duke playing 2 in his sideboard as well. Turtenwald does not find the land. Thompson going to cycle a Think Twice, gonna untap and draw, but Underworld Connections can take over a game by its lonesome if it is left unchecked, as Thompson draws a Sphinx's Revelation. So the question now is, does Thompson have a land to play? I mean, if he doesn't, it's almost worth thinking about flashing back main phase that think twice to find it.
Putting the shields down.
Yeah.
Always a scary proposition.
Does he have a Dissipate in hand?
I mean, he is certainly representing a counterspell. That is the big thing here, and he's been representing one as he's going to come across with Augur of Bolas. But how important is it to represent that counterspell, let Turtenwald draw some cards with that Underworld Connections versus flashing back a Think Twice and trying to hit your lands?
And he gets rid of, wow, the Rakdos Keyrune. Now, if Owen Turtenwald uses his Underworld Connections, that is cutting him off of mana.
Yep.
Now,
so he is going to do that.
One of the best ways, of course, to fix your mana, draw a card.
Yep. Which it does not look like Turtenwald has found one, so he's going to play a Grafdigger's Cage and pass the turn back, and both these players are fumbling around on mana. Thompson draws a turn and burn, does not have a land. He'll start by attacking for 1 and pass the turn back, refusing to flashback Think Twice.
He's playing it very patiently here.
Because, well, my mistake there, of course, because of the Grafdigger's Cage, he actually can't flash it back.
Good point.
I do take that back, as Turtenwald's going to play a Hunt Master of the Fells after drawing that Woodland Cemetery. Essence Scatter, going to take care of that. So the Grafdigger's Cage, a 1-of in their sideboard, looking a little bit better than I thought it would.
Now, Gerry Thompson, your attacks for 1, has drawn a Syncopate. He's trying to make a vague impression of an aggro control deck here. Attacking for 1, a turn that was not so exciting, but like I said, an impression, certainly not successfully managing, I think, the effect of it.
Turtenwald's going to draw a card with that Underworld Connections again. He's going to cast a Farseek, and one thing to not ignore, Adrian, is that that Underworld Connection does represent a point of damage as well. So Thompson's deck has the ability to Warleader's Helix go upstairs, Turn and Burn, go upstairs, multiple points of damage, a little bit of reach that his deck does have. It can close out a game pretty quickly if he's able to find another land to start sending burn spells upstairs.
And Owen Turtenwald's list is not running Cavern of Souls, so a card like Thragtusk, which would get him out of the mess of being at low life, can very easily be Essence Scattered, Dissipated, or Syncopated.
You see Hunt Master of the Fells is going to let him gain some life as well. Thompson does have a Syncopate right now, but Turtenwald does have the 2 mana available, so he's going to gain some life. He's going to put that Wolf token into play, and maybe we'll see Turn Burn happen here, as there is the Wolf token. But Turtenwald says, I want to use Gerry Thompson Avatar token for this situation. Turn is going to take care of the Avatar. Excuse me, going to take care of the Hunt Master. So that Gerry Thompson token, oddly enough, Gerry and Owen, pretty good friends, going to mock him being a 2-2 and not a 2020. Thompson finally draws a land here now, Adrian. He draws a Hollow Fountain. Decisions come into play untapped. Leave it, let it come into play tapped. Does he want to represent multiple different things? Because again, Turtenwald is at 12 right now, but Gerry needs to make this game he needs to have this game get over with. Because you know, with the Underworld Connections and Turtenwald starting to find his lands, that's not a good situation to be in.
And you see him put it into play untapped. That's 2 life. And there's a lot more things available for him at 4 mana. Restoration Angel, just one of them. And of course, Warleader's Helix. But we're going to have to see what is going to happen next here for Owen Turtenwald. He does not have a 2020 in play. No, that is a Wolf. Owen having a little bit of fun with his friend Gerry. You can see that Kessig Wolf runs in play. And a fair amount of mana at this point. Yeah, 7 lands.
You know, I don't think it's quite Wolf Run time just yet for Turtenwald. He's got a lot of threats that he wants to deploy. You see a Thragtusk, you see a Garrett Primal Hunter. He does have a copy of Rakdos' Return in his hand as well. And you see him sifting through his cards in his hand because these next couple of turns, how he wants to navigate these turns is very important because he does not want to let this game get away from him. He wants to make sure that he resolves his relevant cards, and he's going to start off with the 5/3 Beast.
This moment right here is, I think, a really big one. We see a Syncopate for 3, and that's just enough to take care of the Thragtusk. The reason that that's so big, we saw all of the life loss that Underworld Connections has done. It, as you said, Owen could very easily just get burned out at the end of this game. But in order for that to happen, Gerry cannot let a big 5-point life swing happen.
So now he's going to start off as Thompson with that Augur Boss. He's going to find a Sphinx's Revelation, which is not at its best right now. He's going to play a Sacred Foundry tap, and he's going to pass the turn back. So, not representing Dissipate, not representing Counterflux. Best he can do is like an Essence Scatter or Negate, or potentially a Syncopate for 1. So we'll see what Turtenwald looks to play around here as he's at 10.
Thragtusk is part of the cards in hand now. Draws another card.
Going to go down to 9, draws a card. You see him sifting through all of those cards right now, and there is the Thragtusk that you did mention.
Oh, and it resolves.
So Turtenwald's going to go up to 14, and happens to be a 5/3 too.
Oh boy. Let's see. The turn and burn is in the graveyard. Is that correct?
That is correct. They take care of the front half of the Huntmaster of the Fells as Thompson does draw another land. So he's starting to hit his land drops now, but is he too far behind because of how many cards Owen has? That's the question.
I think he may be too far behind. And one of the things also, turn burn, the only way that he has in his deck to make the Thragtusk a little less effective, that's already in the graveyard. He could potentially Snapcaster the turn portion of it, but
won't be able to flash it back because of the Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, that's right.
The problem.
There's so many little moments, little things here that have come together for Owen.
So you see Thragtusk coming into the red zone. Thompson going to put his Augur Bolts underneath the bus. Turtenwald passes priority, so no Kessig Wolf Run activation.
I mean, Gerry would need to go over the top here with Sphinx's Revelations, but unfortunately for him, that Underworld connection has been working overtime. You remember a while back, he used Attention Sphere on Rakdos Kirun instead. I kind of wonder if he's regretting that choice now.
At the time, I thought it was perfectly defensible. Try to cut Turtenwald's mana sources as Liliana the Veil is going to resolve. It's going to go upstairs, so Turtenwald is going to attack now from multiple angles via Planeswalker, Attacker, and Kessig Wolf Run. So we'll see what both players want to discard here. Again, Turtenwald has a full Monty of cards in his hand. His hand is looking absolutely great as Thompson is going to let that Liliana activation resolve. He's ready to discard, and he has multiple Sphinx Revelations and is going to discard a Supreme Verdict. So let's see if Turtenwald has any other plays this turn. He's reaching for some more mana. He's going to tap 2 of them. It's going to be a Scavenging Ooze. Thompson gives a shrug, says that's fine. There's a Stomping Ground, and we're going to go back Gerry's way.
Gerry is likely going to draw. There it is, 3 cards. Yep. 1, 2, 3.
And that card that you mentioned, Adrian, about sideboarding for Thompson in Aetherling, I believe he does have in his hand. And if there's one card that can steal this game for him right now, it is that.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem, unfortunately, for Gerry is that his time is running out. That Scavenging Ooze has a lot of fodder to eat, and it will become very big.
So now there's a War Leader's Helix. Thompson going to take 2 from that Hollow Fountain. He said, I need to get that Liliana off the board, but more importantly, I'd like 4 life, thank you very much. This is going to pass the turn back and represent that Dissipate that he does have in his hand. So Turtenwald going to draw a card with Underworld Connections. Going to untap, maybe. We're going to see a Scavenging Ooze activation first. Figure out what he wants to remove, and it is going to be an Augur of Bolas to make that thing a little bit bigger, stronger, and faster.
Okay, back to Owen, untapped with 1,000,000 mana. Obviously an exaggeration, but feels like it, I'm sure,
it probably
for
feels
Gerry.
that way for Gerry. Yeah, where he's the thing for Jun, with how powerful the deck is and how powerful his cards are, the flashpoint is when it's able to play 2 spells in 1 turn. Because normally it's this deck that can play 1 spell a turn, and you can actually probably keep up with it then. But when it's drawing cards via Underworld Connections, casting 2 spells a turn, that's where things really get hairy.
Absolutely.
You see a Doomblade there in Turtenwald's hand. He's able to draw a card with Underworld Connections each turn, play a land, maybe Farseek, and then be able to do multiple things, and that's really scary. Because Dissipate can only counter 1 of the cards. So Turtenwald is going to take a look at his graveyard. Three mana is how he's going to start his turn. Make it maybe a little bit more. The other thing here for Thompson too that cannot go overlooked, Adrian, is that he's playing against a former Player of the Year.
Oh, absolutely.
Owen is going to navigate his turns
very well.
Very, very well. He's going to come to a very good decision-making process throughout these turns. There's a Doomblade, take care of the Augur, and now he's going to come sideways here with the Thragtusk, with the 2/2 Wolf, and the Scavenging Ooze.
That's 10 damage.
Yeah.
Now remember, Gerry was looking, like he had done a nice buffer for himself. War Leader's Helix gave him 4 life. He got a little bit more, another Thragtusk. A little more life from that Sphinx's Revelation. Essence Scatter on that second Thragtusk. That's going to make his Supreme Verdict a little bit better. He's going to have only 1 beast left over after the Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, but he's got so many more problems in front of him. That Kessig Wolf run, the cards in Turtenwald's hands here is that Supreme Verdict that you did mention. Gonna clear things up, gonna leave the Beast token into play there. So the Gerry token will now represent a 3/3 instead of a 2/2.
Do not be confused, people at home. We do not have a 20/20 in play.
So now Turtenwald is gonna untap, and again, the world is his oyster right now. Thompson just has a Dissipate that he can represent. Is Turtenwald going to move in with the Wolf run? Looks like he's going to start his turn by getting some more information and activating Underworld Connections again. And it cannot be understated the effect that Underworld Connections is having on this game.
I mean, at this point, every Sphinx's revelation, the Think Twice, none of it adds up to the amount of cards that Owen has drawn this game.
So now he's going to come out with a Haymaker and Garrett Primal Hunter.
Have to stop that.
Yeah, you cannot let that resolve. So Dissipate is going to exile that. And we may see Turtenwald just cast a Farseek here, might have a Scavenging Ooze, might just leave up a removal spell. We will see.
He goes for a land and takes 2 damage.
He's going to play
another
Scavenging
Ooze.
Okay.
And immediately makes it a 3/3 to keep it out of, well, I mean, he could respond to a pillar.
Yeah, he can respond to a pillar.
Out of a shock range.
Yep. Something, he just wants to get the activation out of the way right now. Thompson sitting at 8, Turtenwald sitting at 11. The interesting thing about Jund too is that how much life it can gain, because we were talking about how Gerry can maybe chase him down with some War Leader's Helixes, some Turn Burns, maybe Pillar Flame, stuff of that nature. But with Thragtusk, with Huntmaster of the Fells, and now with the addition of Scavenging Ooze, this deck basically starts the game at 30 life, it feels like.
Yeah.
And chasing them down with those burn spells is so much harder now, as Thompson's going to play an Augur of Bolas and find a Dissipate. Having difficulty finding lands, are going to pass the turn back over to Turtenwald. That chasing them down with those burn spells that we mentioned is incredibly difficult to do.
We see a Scavenging Ooze on 3, a 3/3 beast now, no longer a wolf. That is now a 3/3 beast.
You see Turtenwald has a Rakdos's Return in his hand right now as well, so he could fire off the old Fireball discard cannon if he wants to. But you see, again, then this is what I really like when I watch 2 high-level players play, is the decision-making process they go to. How do they want to navigate these turns where they have a lot of decisions? Putrefy going to take care of the Augur of Bolas to start things, because he just wants to make it so that Augur never has the opportunity to chump block.
And Owen put that right in his graveyard. Gerry's like, hang on a second. So back to the stack, and then it does resolve.
Yep.
So another land. Surprisingly, Owen has not missed a land drop, drawing 2 cards a turn.
Yeah, a real shockaroo there, as we're going to see a Scavenging Ooze activation, a little bit bigger, moving that Thragtusk up to a 4/4. How about a 5/5, removing another Scavenging Ooze?
And there are certainly enough creatures in graveyards that he can respond to a Helix.
Yep.
So,
and this is him showing a lethal attack here. That's a 5/5 and a 3/3. War Leader's Helix going upstairs to the dome. Or excuse me, taking care of the Beast token, not
take
upstairs.
care of the Beast.
Taking care of the Gerry Thompson token. Gerry actually War Leader Helix himself. That'd be a little bit painful.
I feel like when LSV was facing down tons of himself, he ended up losing that match. And I think that's where we're going to be.
No, there's that Rakdos's Return for lethal, and Owen Turtenwald is going to defeat Gerry Thompson 2-0. The defending champion now has 3 losses on his resume. Jund takes down Blue, White, Red Flash, and Jund, piloted by a great player like Owen Turtenwald or Reed Duke, is looking nearly unstoppable right now.
I mean, the deck is just so good. When we actually just look at the list of cards, it reads like some sort of murderer's row, you go down the creatures, they're all cards that you don't want to fight against.
Yep.
And then the spells themselves, Abrupt Decay, Dreadbore, Doomblade, Mizium Mortar, Bonfire of the Damned, Putrefy, Rakdos's Return, Tragic Slip, all of those are such great spells.
The thing I like about this deck the most is that this is a no bad card deck. This is an all good card deck, and by good I mean great.
Yeah.
This is an all great card deck, and assuming that they draw their cards in the right order or don't have any mana problems with a beautiful mana base like they do have, and are able to even play a spell land with their mana so good in 2 Kessig Wolf runs, this is an incredibly difficult deck to beat.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but it's very, very hard.
And the thing I also like about this deck is that when you look at just how the mana plays out, you saw Owen there, he stumbled a little bit, and I really did like when Gerry Thompson cast the second turn negate on the Farseek.